Good morning, Namaste, Hari Om. My name is Sandeep, Balakrishna. It's a great pleasure to address this August audience here. And am I audible? Yeah. And extra pleasure because one person from the English mainstream media is here.
I'm really in a minority here today.
All right. So, just a quick technical introduction to blogging. The word blog is a short form of weblog. It's akin to a journal or a diary or a logbook that some of us are in the habit of keeping. And to give a bit of a history of blogs just started in the mid to late 90s actually, around 98, 99 time frame. And then they quickly grew into a big phenomenon and literally millions of blogs today on every conceivable topic. Even scientists are writing blogs now. So, all right. So, when blogs began to pick up, they were truly revolutionary because until blogs began, information, mainstream information, how we consumed information was restricted. Both the access to actual information, news, etc. We were more recipients rather than participants or respondents. At the most, you could have letters to the editor. Which was what, like 5 or 6 letters to the editor. Even the so-called venerable Hindu used to carry some elaborate letters to the editor, but that was that. So blogging, they opened up an entire new vista where you could not only be the consumer of news or opinions, analysis, etc., information, but you could be an active participant and a respondent. and the biggest, in my view at least, in my experience of 14 years of blogging, for the first time, there was a space, at least, and I'm talking about this purely in Indian context. For the first time ever, there was a space created, you could create a space for dissenting and or alternate voices which had no outlet in the mainstream media. By blogging, they changed all that in one stroke by individuals taking charge of public discourse. Instead of being mere recipients, you could also react, you could also respond, and you could also counter. And that power was put in the hand of every individual. All you need to do, just set up a blog, start writing. And they were called back then, in those days, in 2001 to between 2001 and 3. There's this term came up as independent influencers. As in, you sit behind your computer somewhere there, and what you write, backed by facts, evidence, etc., put it out there for the entire world. That is something that was unprecedented, never happened before. So what that made was it challenged the media, the prevailing discourse, politicians, ideas, policies, etc. And because the very nature of blog is highly individualistic, it is independent. And if you want to counter something or you want to express your view, you read up. If you want to be taken seriously, you read up, you do your research, and then put it out, and you're not paid for it. I find it amusing that a lot of companies now hire people and pay them to write blogs. Yeah, latest model of Titan watch or whatever. You have, anyway, automobile, new cars. So that's in a different segment. Businesses have to do what they have to do. But in the public discourse or in serious issues, independent commentary, because bloggers and the whole aspect of blogging is very individualistic, the element of passion was there. So unless you had that, it'll be just another blog. I woke up, my mom bet me, whatever. So and then these independent influencers became very quickly. This happened over 5-6 years. People began to respond. Okay, I can say this from personal experience, which I'll come to a little later. So over the period of time, in the West, for example, we had some prominent bloggers like Glenn Reynolds, who was a law professor in some, I forget which university, and then there was Rebecca Blood, who was herself a former journalist, and Andrew Sullivan, who turned mainstream now. A lot of people like that. And then, because it got noticed, both MSM, mainstream media, academia, they began to take notice of influential bloggers, and they started corresponding with them offline over emails. Oh, this is nice, you know, I hadn't thought of this like that. So that, like Twitter networks have been created, this was a more elaborate blogging network. And they began to find out that bloggers did better fact checking, they kept track of media biases, etc. And then they forced the mainstream media to be careful. And if I'm not mistaken, India Today had done a piece on bloggers, cyber Cinderellas or something, right? Or Cinderellas of cyberspace or something. Is that right? Yeah. And so the impact was such that almost every mainstream media outlets now began to feature blogs. So the basic point is that bloggers force the mainstream media to level the playing field. You can no longer talk down to us, which is a habit that I've seen in the Indian mainstream media space. That journalists and five-star columnists, they have a habit of talking down to their readers. Anyway, and indeed Bharat too has a good track record in this thing. A lot of bloggers called out politicians, doublespeak, etc., whatever appeasement, then exposed distortions and lots of dirty tricks of mainstream media. Yeah, so there you go, Kaveri. And I have to mention the case of Chaitanya Kunte here and myself. It's a good case of a good case study of mainstream media feeling rattled by bloggers. And how many of you are familiar with Chaitanya Kunte? I should look this side. Yeah. So he's a guy, a blogger based somewhere in Europe, I think Netherlands, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So he wrote a piece criticizing Barkhadat's coverage of 2611, and then she sent him a legal notice, and you take it down, apologize, you take it down, or I'm going to take you to court. He got scared and he took it down, and the entire blogging world, there's outrage. I mean, what mainstream media journalists don't realize that they took a long time to understand the nature of the internet. One of the things is that the moment you put out anything on the internet, it stays there forever. You can delete it, but it stays there forever. Somewhere it is buried. So the moment Chaitanya got intimidated, he took it down. And then a lot of these bloggers were outraged. They said, I mean, how dare these guys do something like this? And he didn't slander her. He just pointed, look, this is not how it needs to be reported. You're helping the terrorists, etc., etc. Instead of responding civilly or putting a comment out there or something, intimidate them, do this or I'll sue you or whatever. So when that happened, replicas of his blog post were posted across all blogs, including mine. And then I wrote a post saying, Barka, give me a legal notice. So anyway, that was one example of how the level playing field was level. And then there's some impact of blogging on discourse, mainstream discourse in India. Like I said, I think it's a repeat. They have blogs primarily when they were on the ascendant. They have allowed people to bypass mainstream media, and the credibility of mainstream media is at an all-time low. You can count on me. And networked and like-minded blogs, they have resulted in offline support as in groundwork for the right causes. And suppressed stories by mainstream media reported by bloggers. I mean, this as late as 2011 or 12 when the Assam riots happened. That is a suppression of news. And one venerable gentleman tweets saying, tyranny of distance. So, I mean, such a serious issue, you say, that's suppression of news basically. And the big influence of all this thing, social media, blogging, etc., it came like a flood during the run-up to Narendra Modi's campaign, and because his team, I know the kind of work he's done. Let's not go into details. And a bit of personal experience. I started 14 years ago. My domain name now is sandeepweb.com, but back then it was different. And I used to use a free blog service. So it was a basic mix of political commentary, some issues impacting Sanatana Dharma, some combating Marxism, media watch. There's a couple of milestones. I don't want to beat my own trumpet, so called out the media hypocrisy during that's Ram Janmabhoomi verdict. This is in 2010, and much before that, there's some native journalist called Dilip D'Souza who had written something about the Bombay riots, and that is when he came back, and then my comment space was on fire basically for some 1 or 2 weeks. Height of it. Anyway, so then the real turning point in a sense was how the media distorted the commentary and the narrative on 2002 Gujarat riots. In fact, the Hindu wrote edit, center page edit, where it justified the killing of the 58 Hindus in the Sabarmati Express. It said, why did these caste sevaks have to go there and pray for Ram and come back? Muslims' sentiments would have been. So it is like that. They justified saying, look, boss, you had it coming. So I tracked all that, and I coined this word for called Gujarat Rights Cottage Industry as well. And Arvind is there. You remember those days? So anyway, same thing, and Barka also sent me a legal notice on a different issue, not on this Chaitanya Puntin, much before. And I prominently pasted the legal notice in a new blog post. And I said I'm not going to take down anything, so they left it at that. And then when I wrote a 2-part series on the 2012 Assam riots, and so Mr. Kapil Sibal blocked my blog. Yeah. So anyway, overall, it's been a nice journey, a very educative, instructive journey for me. And in fact, I think I owe a lot to my blogging or whatever, even if I'm standing here today and talking to you guys. It led me to write 2 books, thanks to a lot of an encouraging audience of my blog. And right now, it's largely dormant because I've moved on to other things. Next. All right, some lessons learned. I used to write very provocatively earlier. Right now, age has caught up with me. So. But yeah, some basic tips is just adhere to facts, do your research, and don't write anything that you can't verify. And always write from a position of strength. And if you want your blog to be popular, widely noticed, etc., you have to write regularly. And do not write for an audience. Don't have an audience in mind. Don't ever have an audience in mind. That is for these business bloggers. Okay, I want to sell a car or something, then that is, you have an audience. This is not that. And anybody bluffs in public discourse, don't be hesitant to call them out. And no personal attacks against people. And over a period of time, now I don't think too many people comment on blogs, but try and respond to every comment. And like in all good research, supplement your writing with references, it will boost your credibility. And you have some like-minded blogs, just link up to them. Namaste. Thanks.